Welcome back to another episode of Sports-Fixx. I am Carson Becker, and we are back talking about another reaction to the playoff rankings, which came out last night. Couple of changes this week. The new 4 seed, as Texas A&M loses, and they drop. And so a couple of other things here. You got the 11 and 12 seeds both sitting open to the conference champion, whoever they may be. So we'll go ahead and get right into it, start talking about it. Ohio State stays at 1, Indiana stays at 2, Georgia stays at 3. Texas Tech jumps into that 4th spot as Texas A&M lost this past weekend to Texas. Number 5 is Oregon, number 6 is Ole Miss, 7 is Texas A&M, 8 Oklahoma, 9 Alabama, and 10 Notre Dame. So not too many changes there. Of course, we have the 11 and 12 seeds sitting open because it's for the conference champions. So you're looking at the ACC champion and the Power 5 champion in that 11-12 spot. Now, if UVA wins the ACC, they will be that 11 seed, and the 12 seed will go to most likely North Texas, the next highest ranked Power 5 conference team. So that's how it will play out. Now, if UVA loses and Duke wins the ACC, they will be sitting at, I believe, 8-5 on the year, and they will not get into the playoff. It would be that doomsday scenario that we talked about a couple weeks ago, where 2 Power 5 teams get into the playoffs, and right now, at the moment, it's looking like it's going to be North Texas would be the 11 seed, and JMU would be the 12 seed, showing that if both those teams were to go on to win their conference championships, right? So, now, if that were to happen, if Duke was to go and win the ACC championship, and you had 2 Power 5 teams, I think, one, that would be crazy if we had 2 Power 5 teams in, and most likely, I think we're all thinking it, they'd both lose in that first round, and it wouldn't be much of a game. Neither of those games would be great games. I feel like we're all kind of in that same boat here. And it would turn into a lot of people going onto the internet, going onto social media, and saying we need to take out the automatic Power 5 conference, automatic bid. And I agree. I think if we're going to have Power 5 teams, if we want Power 5 teams into the conference, we need them to be ranked at least 15 or higher, because these Power 5 teams are not playing the same competition. They're not playing all these great teams all year, so they're never going to be like top 12 like people were talking about. If they're top 12, they could be it, but they're never going to be top 12 because the committee's never going to rank them that high. I think if they're top 15, maybe you drop it down to top 20. If they're top 20 in the country at the end of the year, I think they could get their automatic bid. But if they're not, then I don't think they should get an automatic bid, because at this point we could potentially have 2 Power 5 teams with 2 games that would not be that good, and so we're only getting 2 good home playoff games at that point, and nobody wants to see that. We want to see good playoff games. I think 1 Power 5 team, fine, not the end of the world if one gets in, but you're excluding a couple of teams that would make for some great games. Put Texas in that 12th spot right now and have them go play Oregon. I think that's a great game. I think Texas goes and wins that game in Eugene, potentially, maybe, depending on weather and stuff. I think weather could affect Texas in that game, but I think Texas, Oregon, I think that's a great game. You have now the other game, the ACC champion, if it was UVA Ole Miss, probably won't be much of a game, and you can't really take out an ACC champion. The whole problem is the fact that the ACC just isn't really that good this year. That's the big problem, is the ACC just hasn't been great. It's been a really up and down year, and you haven't seen a real dominant team. Everybody's been losing to everybody, and it's kind of been the SEC type schedule where they kind of just kill each other all the rest of the year, and at this point they're killing each other so much that it's gone down to a 7-5 team getting into the conference championship. So that's really been the problem, and it might not be a problem in the next coming years. So this Power 5 team, but I can see a whole bunch of people going to social media if 2 Power 5 teams were to get in and be like, oh, we need to take out the automatic bid for the Power 5 teams. And I don't disagree. Now, one getting in, I can kind of agree, but I feel like they need to be ranked. They need to be ranked in the top 25 at least, and I think they need to at least be in the top 20 to get the automatic bid. So I think that's one change that we need to see, but for now, that's how we're going to be doing it. And I think we're leaving out some pretty good teams that make very good cases. And I know every year we leave out a good team that should be in that just isn't going to get in because there's not enough spots. And that's just going to keep us expanding and expanding and expanding and adding more teams. But at this point, I think if 2 Power 5 teams get in, it's going to really rise some concerns for the playoffs, and there's going to be even more changes made next year. So that's my little spiel on that. We'll go into some of the new matchups that we have here. We'd get a Notre Dame Texas A&M rematch from early in the year. We all know how that game ended. Crazy ending to that. Holder dropping the ball and not making the field goal, and then Texas A&M going down the field and scoring a touchdown and making the extra point. So Texas A&M wins by 1 in that game. I think that would be another great game. You have not seen the same. Texas A&M would not be seeing the same Notre Dame team that they saw in that game. Jeremiah Love has been on a tear, and I think that would be a great game. We would also have a Alabama versus Oklahoma rematch from a couple weeks ago. This game would be in Norman this time. Last time it was in Tuscaloosa. Of course, Oklahoma would go on to win that game, and I think that would be a great game. So, and it's hard to beat a team twice. So for both of those matchups, that would be 2 great games. But if the 2 Power 5 teams get in, the other 2 games wouldn't be that great. So that was my whole thing about that. But now, if Alabama was to go on to win the SEC, how far do they move up? Yeah, how far does Alabama move up if they go on to win the SEC? They play Georgia, who's sitting at the 3 spot. How far do they move up? Does the SEC champion go all the way into a top 4 spot? And also, people are talking about Alabama moving out if they lose that game, but there's no way the committee moves out the SEC runner-up. We'll see kind of what else happens on championship weekend. You got Texas Tech playing BYU. Maybe BYU goes and wins the Big 12 and throws that for a whole loop. Does Texas Tech? How far does Texas Tech move down if that happens? I mean, so, and then, well, that's really all that can really change, because if Indiana was to win the Big Ten championship, then those teams would probably just swap, Ohio State and Indiana, so not much movement there, but SEC could have some big changes if Alabama goes to win it, and then maybe BYU, who's sitting out of the playoff, now plays their way into the playoff as if they win the Big 12. So now we saw what happened in that game last time those 2 teams played, and it was not pretty for BYU, but it's hard to beat a team twice, so maybe BYU will go make it at least a game this time, hopefully. So we'll see what happens there. Be very interesting to see how the rest of the season plays out, and we'll see this next weekend, who's going to be in the playoffs and who we're going to see as the matchups in the playoffs. So we'll see. That's all I have for this episode of Sports-Fixx. Thank you for watching. I am Carson Becker, and I will see you next time.